Her name was Elena Ramirez, and for 42 years she lived in the same small white house on Marigold Street in Fresno, California. The paint had faded under the relentless Central Valley sun, and the wooden porch sagged slightly at one corner, but to Elena it was a palace of memories. It was where she had raised 3 children, where her husband Mateo had planted orange trees in the backyard, and where every Sunday the scent of cinnamon and warm tortillas drifted through the windows and into the neighborhood. By the time she turned 74, the neighborhood had changed. The old families were gone. Investors had arrived, buying properties, flipping them, turning memories into profit margins. Elena didn't understand the language of market value and development opportunity. She understood love, loyalty, and promises. Her trouble began with a knock at the door. The man on her porch wore polished shoes and a smile that never reached his eyes. He introduced himself as Daniel Harper from Golden Crest Development Group. He spoke quickly, smoothly, explaining that the company was purchasing homes in the area to build a luxury apartment complex. He handed her a business card and a glossy brochure filled with pictures of swimming pools and rooftop lounges. "We're offering generous compensation," he said. "It's a wonderful opportunity." Elena folded her hands over her apron. "This is my home," she replied gently. "I'm not selling." Daniel's smile tightened. "Think about it. The neighborhood is changing." She closed the door politely, but something about the way he said changing made her uneasy. Within weeks, construction began on the empty lots around her. Trucks rumbled past at dawn. Dust coated her roses. The neighbors who had promised to stay were gone, replaced by chain-link fences and bulldozers. Elena endured it quietly. She had survived worse. She had crossed a border with 2 small children in a suitcase. She had worked 2 jobs when Mateo fell ill. Noise and dust were nothing compared to that. But then the letters started arriving. Official-looking envelopes warned of code violations. They claimed her porch was unsafe, her roof unstable, her plumbing outdated. Fines accumulated rapidly, numbers so large they made her hands tremble. She called the city office, but the lines were busy or she was transferred endlessly. One afternoon, she found her water shut off. Elena sat at her kitchen table staring at the faucet as if it had betrayed her. This was no coincidence. It was pressure. It was strategy. That evening her granddaughter Sophia came over. Sophia was 27, a law student at UCLA, sharp-eyed and quick-witted. She listened as Elena explained everything, her voice calm but firm. "They want me to leave," Elena said. "They think I am weak because I am old." Sophia's jaw tightened. They picked the wrong grandmother. Sophia began investigating. She discovered that Golden Crest Development had been acquiring properties aggressively across California. There were complaints online, elderly homeowners pressured into selling, questionable inspections, suspicious fines. But no one had fought back publicly. Most had taken the money and left. Elena refused. "I promised your grandfather," she told Sophia, touching the faded photograph on the mantel. "This house stays in the family." The next weeks were a storm of paperwork and research. Sophia requested public records. She filed complaints. She discovered something startling. The code violations had been reported anonymously, multiple times, always within days of Daniel Harper's visits. Meanwhile, Daniel returned. This time he didn't smile. "You're making things difficult," he said, standing in her yard without invitation. "The fines will only increase. You could walk away with a comfortable retirement." Elena looked at him steadily. "Comfort does not come from money. It comes from sleeping without shame." He laughed lightly, but there was irritation beneath it. "Stubbornness has consequences. So does greed," she replied. That night someone spray-painted a red X on her fence. Sophia wanted to call the police immediately, but Elena stopped her. "We will," she said, "but first we gather proof." Elena had grown up in a small village in Mexico where survival depended on paying attention. She noticed details others ignored. A black SUV parked too often near her house. A man photographing her roof from across the street. Workers whispering when she stepped outside. Sophia installed security cameras. 3 days later, at 2:14 a.m., the cameras captured Daniel Harper entering her yard. He carried a crowbar. He approached the porch and deliberately loosened the already fragile railing, then left quietly. The next morning, a city inspector arrived unannounced and declared the porch hazardous, issuing an immediate evacuation warning. But Sophia was ready. She presented the footage to the inspector. His expression changed instantly. Within hours, the police were involved. Daniel denied everything, of course. Claimed the video was misleading. said he was checking on her well-being. But the evidence was clear, and investigators began digging into Golden Crest Development's practices. As the investigation unfolded, more victims came forward. Elderly homeowners from Sacramento to San Diego shared eerily similar stories. Intimidation, fabricated violations, harassment. Daniel had built his career on pushing out the vulnerable. Elena watched it all with quiet determination. She did not celebrate, she simply watered her roses. The story reached local news. Reporters stood outside her modest home, microphones extended. They expected anger or tears. Instead, Elena spoke calmly. "I am not fighting for money," she said. "I am fighting for dignity. For every grandmother who is told she is in the way." Her words resonated across California. The state attorney general opened a formal investigation into Golden Crest. Financial records revealed bribed inspectors and falsified documents. The company's stock plummeted. Daniel Harper was arrested on charges of fraud, harassment, and property tampering. But Elena's story did not end there. Months later, Sophia discovered that even if Golden Crest collapsed, another developer would likely attempt the same project. The land was too valuable. "Elena," Sophia said gently one evening, "what if we change the narrative?" They researched historical preservation laws. Elena's home, built in 1948, was one of the last remaining original houses on Marigold Street. It had architectural significance tied to early post-war immigrant communities in Fresno. With community support and media attention, they petitioned for historic landmark status. The process was long and complicated. Public hearings were held. Developers argued that progress should not be blocked by sentimentality. Elena attended every meeting, sitting upright in her simple floral dress. When it was her turn to speak, she held up a photograph of Mateo planting the orange trees. "This house is not wood and nails," she said. "It is proof that we were here. That we worked hard. That we mattered." Silence filled the chamber. The vote passed narrowly. Her home, and 3 neighboring properties, were granted historic protection. The apartment complex design had to be revised, preserving a portion of the original street. Construction resumed months later, but the towering structure now curved respectfully around a small cluster of preserved homes, including Elena's. Golden Crest dissolved under legal pressure. Daniel Harper accepted a plea deal. Barred from real estate development and sentenced to prison time, his polished shoes were replaced by prison-issued boots. Elena never visited the courtroom after the verdict. Revenge, to her, was not about watching someone fall. It was about standing firm. On the day the historic plaque was installed in front of her house, the neighborhood gathered. Children played where bulldozers once roared. Sophia stood beside her grandmother, proud. A reporter asked Elena if she felt victorious. She considered the question carefully. "I feel peaceful," she answered. "They tried to erase me. Instead, they made me permanent." Years later, visitors would walk down Marigold Street and notice the contrast. Sleek modern apartments rising behind a row of modest mid-century homes preserved like anchors in time. A small bronze plaque would tell the story of resilience and community heritage. But the true story lived beyond metal and stone. It lived in every elderly woman who refused to be intimidated. In every family that chose courage over convenience. In every young lawyer who used knowledge to protect love. At 80, Elena still woke early to sweep her porch. The railing had been repaired properly, stronger than before. The orange trees bore fruit each winter. The dust had settled. Sometimes she would sit in her rocking chair at sunset, watching the light turn golden over the new buildings. She did not resent them anymore. Progress, she understood, was not the enemy. Exploitation was. Sophia eventually opened a nonprofit legal clinic specializing in housing rights for seniors. She named it the Marigold Project. When asked why, she would smile and say, "Because of my grandmother." Elena's revenge was never loud. It was patient, strategic, rooted like the orange trees Mateo planted decades ago. Her true story from California became more than a headline. It became a reminder that strength does not fade with age, that wisdom can outmaneuver greed, and that sometimes the most powerful weapon is simply refusing to move.